Welcome to the Bedroom to Boardroom podcast with me, Noel Reeves, the podcast building a community for small and medium-sized businesses to help people on their journey from the bedroom to the boardroom. And today I'm joined by Tim Sutton from Fresh Growth Solutions. Tim I've known for a long time and has worked with me and lots of our team as a coach. And I wanted to bring an episode about coaching and the importance of coaching and what I think coaching brings to organizations. So I couldn't think of anyone better to do that than you, Tim. So Tim, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So we help businesses grow through offering advice as a non-exec or advisor and developing leadership teams and help individuals grow through coaching. So the two things kind of mesh together, and I get a buzz out of those two things, helping businesses and people grow.
I can see that because I know, obviously I know you, so I know, and we've worked with me, probably known me for about 10 years. And
Is it 10?
Yeah, I think it was 2014.
Wow.
Yeah. So
You had the hair then, right?
yeah, I don't know, no. Maybe a few more. But at that time, my business was, nice little business. But in that time that I've known you, we've worked with you, and I'm not going to obviously attribute all of this to you, but we have grown 10 times that to the size of what we were back then in terms of, turnover, people, everything else. So, we've gone on a transformational journey. And I think from when we worked with you on the Growth Accelerator program, it's when I first met you, that kind of really put into place some structure, someone for me to be accountable to other than my family. And I think that really it put me on a bit of a springboard really to actually get things in place to make sure I was doing things in the right way in my business, not just a day-to-day business thing, but really thinking about the future, thinking about having the vision and all those things, which I'm sure you'll want to talk about. So yeah, I mean, what is it about coaching, and not just coaching, but I guess that the vision piece. Let's start there because that was a good place that we started.
Okay, yeah, it was Growth Accelerator, wasn't it? So Growth Accelerator was actually a government funded program. I'd never worked with the government or with government funding before, but I thought it was a good program because it was about identifying ambitious businesses. Because the top 5% of ambitious SMEs in this country create 65% of the jobs. And when I heard that stat, I thought, wow, I thought it was the big corporates that create jobs, but it isn't. It's businesses like you. And the idea of that program was identify the most ambitious businesses, go in and work with them, put a plan together and help them grow. And I thought that sounds like a pretty good program to me, very unlike the government. And so I got involved, and you were one of the first companies I worked with. And that's what we were looking for, ambitious business leaders that were in a good place in the market and recognized they needed to change. And actually, I worked with 500 businesses on that program. And on average, those businesses grew 4 times the rate of the market, and you're a classic case of that.
Yeah.
So that was very rewarding. But what we worked on, if you remember, in the early days was, have you got a vision? Is that communicated? Is it owned? Is it understood? Have you got measures in place?
And no.
Not then.
Not then, no.
And we did your strategic orbit chart.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And we then made sure you had the right team in place, focused on the right things. They were clear, they had clear objectives, and they were held to account.
Yeah.
And you've done none of that. Sorry, you've done most of that.
I still use the orbit I still use that and look at it every year actually, and kind of map it out to the following, or try and look for the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's a really powerful tool.
It's simple, isn't it? Right? And some people try and make strategy too complex.
Yeah.
I think it's important to keep things simple, because when you're running a business, you've got lots of free time, right?
Yeah.
No, you haven't.
No.
So we did the vision and strategy piece, and you then put your team together. And then what happened after Growth Accelerator was, obviously I'd worked with 500 businesses, and before that I'd done lots of different stuff. I'm lucky, I don't need to work. I work because I want to, not because I have to. And I thought, what are the things I really enjoy? And it's doing that, helping businesses with structure, strategy, people and leadership, but I also enjoy helping people grow. I decided to focus on coaching and the strategy piece. And actually, I got introduced to coaching at a point in my career where I was going seriously off the rails. I kind of thought I was Superman. It was all about me. I'd built a team in a big corporate business. I was on the board at 30, so quite young on the board. We were market leader in most of our markets, and I thought it was all about me. And I was so wrong. And I then got some feedback from one of my team who said, Tim, you're not doing this right. And I couldn't see it, but what I was doing was I was stifling my team, stifling the talent. I was telling them to do it my way. I thought I was the brightest person on the team. I expected them all to do it my way. I was a perfectionist. It was all about me, 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 and not about the team. And this individual was brave enough to give me some feedback, saying all those things. You're micromanaging us. You're not empowering us. And I wanted to sack him. That's the truth. Um, I then went home. I spoke to my wife. Uh, and to cut a long story short, she said, don't sack him. The problem is you, Tim. I ignored her because it was affecting my home life.
Mm.
I was I was actually being too challenging in my kids. I was not letting them learn by making mistakes. I was taking back control of stuff in the house that I had that my wife had done in previous years. Because the more I got stressed, the more I wanted to control things.
Yeah.
I then went back into work to get the HR director to help me sack this individual who'd given me feedback that was accurate, honest, and objective, which is a gift.
Mm.
And the HR director said, it's not him, it's you. And I argued with him. So I'd had the feedback 3 times, and I was still not seeing what I was doing wrong. And basically, the group HR director eventually, after half an hour of arguing with him, I said, well, tell me what I need to do. And he gave me a business card. It was a few years ago now, and said, I'd like you to go and see this lady. I'll tell you, her name was Stella, and it said, business coach, financial services, London. I want you to go and see her. And I argued with him and say, why do I need to go and see a coach in London? How can she help me be a better sales and marketing director of the food business in Spalding? And he said, go and see her. I didn't ring her. He then asked me a week later, have you seen her yet? I said, no. He said, well, Gareth, your boss, is saying when you're going to go and see her. So I thought I'd better go and see her. I cancelled the first meeting. I turned up at the second meeting. She phoned my business and said, if Tim doesn't open up to me, I can't coach him. Because that's key to coaching. Key to coaching is you having the comfort to open up to an external person. I then, third meeting, I started to open up. And 12 months later, this Stella was having dinner with my wife and myself, because my wife wanted to meet this mysterious lady in London who had not just made me a better sales and marketing director in Spalding, but also a better husband and a better father at home. So it was transformational
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it?
in my life. And after that, we then introduced coaching into our business. So all of the senior team were trained in coaching. So we all had to coach people in the business. I then started to get a feel for, first of all, it helped me totally change, understand myself better, and recognized I was getting so much so wrong. And Stella helped me change my behaviors to become a much better version of myself. I'm actually quite embarrassed about where I was then, and I'm amazed I managed to get to the position I got to. So having seen the impact it had on me and then the impact it was having on other people, when I left that big corporate business, I went and set my own business up and learnt a load of lessons there. And then when I set the second business up, Fresh Go Solutions, I decided to go away and do a diploma and get some sort of qualification in it. And since then, it's been, as I say, one of the 2 things I focus on. And what could be more rewarding than helping individuals fulfill their potential? Because that's what you're doing when you coach.
Yeah. And I imagine you've got some good success stories too of people that you've worked with.
Obviously, I said earlier that coaching is based on confidentiality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anything
of
you
course. Yeah.
talk about in a coaching session stays between you and the individual. So I have to honour that.
Yeah, of
So I'm
course.
not going to name names.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I can think of one of the individuals started off as a very junior accountant in an accountancy group, got promoted to be a junior manager, and then manager, and then director, and he's now a partner and co-owner of the business. And I've coached him over, I guess, about 10 years. But they don't have to be senior people.
Mm.
It's most of the people I'm coaching are people that are making that transition from managing and controlling and being in the detail and making sure people are doing things right. The transition from managing through coaching to leading, because leading's about being directional, making sure people are doing the right things and then letting them get on with it,
Mm.
empowering them, supporting them, challenging them, and making sure people are doing the right things. So and I guess what I'm really doing is trying to make sure people don't fall into the same trap that I did.
Mm. So just going back to you saw Stella in your sort of earlier career. What did Stella say to you or do with you or make you realise was there a light bulb moment for you that you thought, ah, now I get it?
Maybe not a light bulb moment because now I look back, I know what she was doing.
Yeah.
But the first thing she did was make me self-aware. So hold a mirror up to myself
Yeah.
about the way I was behaving, and then start to understand the impact that was having on others. She then helped me understand what good looks like in being a leader or an MD, because I was leading a functional team. And she then helped me, just as any coach would do, recognize, well, you're here because it's the quote, isn't it? What got you where you are today
Yeah.
isn't going to get you
Yeah.
to where you want to get to.
Yeah.
So make me realize that if I wanted to get to where I wanted to get to, I would need to have to change certain behaviors.
Mm.
And that's what a coach does,
Mm.
because as a coach, you're helping someone fulfill their potential. You're not giving them solutions, you're asking them questions to help them understand what their options are and how they overcome the challenges that are facing them.
You're not there
So,
to tell them what to do.
absolutely not.
No. And that's one of the things I remember from our early days was about the mirror. You know, when something goes wrong, what does a leader do? He looks in the mirror first, or she looks in the mirror, and it's like, and I always remember that, and I always say that when something goes wrong, I'm like, okay, how has this happened? What have I done that has allowed this to happen? And it might not necessarily directly be something that I've done, but I might not have challenged a behavior, might not have set expectations. I might not, it could be anything, but I've probably not done something that's made that issue arise. And and I like that. And I think that kind of humility, be able to say, okay, what have I done that's wrong here? Not just straight away, what have you done? I like that. I think it's I think that's a really powerful thing.
So, that's rewarding for me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The fact you can remember that
yeah,
and you're now applying that in your business,
yeah,
that gives me a nice warm feeling inside
yeah.
because that's made a difference. And I've seen the difference in you, which has been huge. I call it level 5 leadership.
Mm,
You may have remembered
yeah,
I
yeah,
mentioned a book, Jim Collins, From Good to Great.
yeah.
Um, and that was fascinating in that that study looked at 1,500 businesses in the States, and there were a group of businesses grew 7 times faster than the market. And what they found in those businesses was some common characteristics. And one of them was those businesses had level 5 leaders. And they were different to the traditional thinking on leadership in that these level 5 leaders, the first thing was they were humility,
Mm,
just as you've mentioned there.
mm,
The second thing was they never used the word I,
mm,
they always used the word we. And the third thing was whenever things were going wrong, they looked in the mirror.
mm,
What have I done that has meant that team isn't functioning,
mm,
or the board isn't operating effectively, or we haven't got ourselves a marketing right? So they didn't point the finger, they looked in the mirror first.
mm.
And when things were going well, they heaped praise on their team. Um, and you've just given a very good example of that. I've read another book recently that one of my clients suggested I read, called Extreme Ownership. It's worth a read. It's written by a couple of Navy SEALs who were at the top of their field, and they've actually made a very successful business out of moving into business consulting. But the second chapter of that book, when I first saw it, I thought, I'm not sure I agree with that. And it kind of got my hackles up a bit. But the more I thought about it, it's actually right. And the second chapter is there's no such thing as a bad team. There's only bad leaders.
Mm.
Who builds the team?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
The leader does.
yeah.
So if there's something wrong with the team, the leader should be looking in the mirror first. If they're not focused on the right things, that's the leader's responsibility. If he hasn't got the right mix of people, that's the leader's responsibility. If they're not growing and developing, that means they're not being coached. The leader should be coaching.
Mm.
So I think that's another thing that I believe is actually right, and I encourage people to think about. If there's something wrong with your team, you need to look in the mirror first.
Yeah,
What are you going to do to address that?
yeah, totally. Now, I'm a massive believer, obviously, as you know, in coaching, and I love I love the concept of it. I love what it does to people, and I am really keen to do it myself. And not, I've spoken to you about this before, and I am starting to try and do more sort of structured coaching with my team, and it's something that I'd like to do longer term with people outside of my team. Um, and I'm fascinated by it because I can see and I feel the value that it's brought to me, and I've seen what it does to other people as well. Um, but also, I know that obviously you run the CEO group that I'm lucky enough to be a member of, and I've spoken about it before on this podcast. And that space um, is not about coaching. I guess we're kind of coaching each other in a
It,
way. Um, but when you first invited me to that, I can't remember how long ago that was, but it was quite a while ago. I think I've been in it pretty much from the start.
you have. You're a founder member of it.
Found a member, yeah. But I felt at the time when you invited me, I thought I don't feel like I've really got much to bring to this group because I, I've got this little business, probably going to be the smallest business there, the least experienced person. I had a bit of imposter syndrome going to that first meeting, um, and sitting down and listening. And I thought I'm going to be surrounded by all these big wigs who are going to have all this stuff to say, and I'm just going to have nothing to say. But actually, when I was there, I realised that's obviously not the case because in your head you probably always make it worse than what it is. And I loved it from day one. I felt safe to contribute. I felt like I had a voice. I felt like I was being heard. I felt like I could help, and I've to this day I love it. And I always say to people, if there is a group like that, it's not a traditional networking thing. It's not about that. It's more about a support group. And I think that alongside coaching, finding a good group of people who you can trust and share things with that aren't involved in your day to day. You might not, you don't even have to be friends. It's just about knowing that and respecting someone else who's got a good opinion or who's been there. Because most of the issues that we have as business owners, they're not unique, right?
Correct.
We all have the same ones around people, money, customers, whatever it is, family life. We all have the same types of issues. And when you get into a group like that, there's normally someone else who's been through it and can share with you what they did. I'm not going to say you should do this, or you don't have to listen to it if they do, but just having someone else, knowing that you're not alone, and being able to, you know, listen to what the outcomes of someone might say, well, I did this, but it was the worst thing I ever did, and this is why. I think that is a really powerful thing. I want you to know that we all get a lot from that. That's that I personally have really, really enjoyed that. And I think for anyone who's running a business, getting involved in a group like that, but there's not really a framework for that, is there? Or you tell me, is there for anyone who's, based anywhere in the UK or anywhere in the world?
Um, well, first of all, thank you for that feedback. Feedback is
Okay.
a gift, and
Yeah, there you go. There's a gift
I
for you.
appreciate that feedback. Really, it is group coaching because
Mm,
you've just described
mm,
that, some of the fundamentals of coaching. First of all, you said it's a safe place.
mm.
And if you remember, that the only rule is nothing goes outside this room.
Yeah.
So you were comfortable in opening up, and that's what a coach should do: create a safe space
Mm,
where an individual can open up and share their challenges and thoughts, um, and be given the space and freedom to explore different options and then make a commitment which one they're going to go with.
mm.
But we do that in a group structure
Yeah.
in the CEO club. So it's a safe space where you feel comfortable opening up.
Mm,
And people talk about really sensitive stuff.
yeah.
You've been there. We've
Yeah.
had conversations
Yeah.
about family,
Yeah.
equity, ownership.
Yeah.
So first of all, you've got the trust. Secondly, you've got a wealth of experience around that table.
Mm,
And the business challenges are common
Mm.
in every business. What you probably don't see, what I've seen developing that group, is someone will bring a problem, an issue, and they'll get questions from around the table. Well, what do coaches do? Ask questions.
Mm.
The coach will ask a coachee questions to get them to think
Mm.
about the issue and the challenge and take them through. What is the issue? Who's involved? What assumptions are you making?
Mm.
And then take them into what options have you got? What have you tried?
Mm.
What else could you do? What would someone do who's even more skilled at this in this situation?
Mm.
And then at the end, you take them into the call for action. So what are you going to do? When are you going to do it by?
Mm.
And they then come back to the next meeting, and you'll all say, "So
How did that go?
how did it go?" So what you're actually doing is group coaching,
Mm.
and you've seen the power and the impact of that.
Mm.
And so has, well, we ended up running a second group, didn't we?
Mm.
Because we have other people wanted to come along to it, and there's now
Yeah.
another one in Nottingham. So, but coming back to your question, what can others do? There is a national program called Vistage. Okay. But you pay, I think it's 1,200 quid, 1,300 quid a month
Right.
to be on Vistage.
Okay.
I nearly joined Vistage, but I decided not to because I enjoy doing the other stuff, the coaching and the supporting businesses as an advisor. Vistage then started to approach a number of people, and I said, no, we'll set our own group up. So we've set our own Vistage group up
Yeah.
that you don't pay £1,000 a month for. We just pay for dinner.
Yeah.
Any group of business owners can do that if they just find someone to catalyze and
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
So you can go and join Vistage, and actually it's a very similar model.
Yeah.
And they will bring in guest speakers and
Okay.
presenters, experts in their field.
Yeah.
We have the occasional guest come in, but nothing at the level Vistage does. So I
Right.
think Vistage is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the concept is fantastic.
Yeah.
I just feel for a lot of SME business owners, it perhaps isn't affordable.
Yeah.
So if you want to set a group up, just find a catalyst or someone who'll set it up for you. You've got to have the right environment, as you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's got to be somewhere, a closed space where people feel comfortable opening up.
Yeah.
It helps. We've got a great venue and fantastic food.
Yeah.
And also the timing, we do it on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
6:30, so they can come straight from work.
Yeah.
And then they can leave when they want to, although very rarely do people leave
Yeah.
before 10 o'clock
No.
because obviously they're getting value from it. But set your own group up, or you can go for the Vistage option if you
Yeah.
wish to.
I think just getting into a group where you can share thoughts and feelings, and there are a lot of other government-run things, aren't there? Like local
Sure.
authority-run programs, business clubs, that kind of stuff. Which they're all great too, but they don't quite have that intimate thing that we have as our group of sort of 12 to 15 people.
Yeah, and I don't think it's it's no secret to be quite open. We we are selective about who we invite
Mm.
because you want people that are going to be very comfortable in opening up,
Yeah.
but they also need to be comfortable in sharing experiences.
Yeah.
And often it's experiences that haven't gone well because you're saving other businesses from
Yeah.
falling into the same trap.
Yeah.
So they've got to be willing to share experiences, but they've also got to be willing to listen
Yeah.
and learn and take insights from others around the table.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's there's nothing to stop people doing it with other like-minded businesses. If you get the right 3 or 4 people sat around the table, there's a little bit of facilitation, isn't there? Like kind of I know if there's a common issue with 2 businesses,
Yeah.
so I might get them to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And in fact, a number of the people in the group have been, which I encourage, and it is a great thing to do, is go and visit each other businesses to learn from each other.
Yeah. And you've got insight to those businesses because you work with most of them,
Yeah.
or have done at least. So you've got a bit of insight into them, so you can be a bit more probing, or you might know that someone else, you might be able to uncover something, even if they might not feel forthcoming at the start. You can kind of, coax them out a bit. So what about for coaching then? If there's business owners watching this that don't work with a coach, might not think they need to, and they might not need to, but my own experience in that is do it anyway, because you might find that if you're looking to grow, just someone else to be accountable to, someone else who's going to challenge your thinking, someone else is going to challenge your ideas of where you want to go, someone who can support your wider team. I think there's a huge amount of of value in it. I know that, but for anyone who's listening to this or watching this, where do you think they should start in terms of finding a coach? Where's a good place to start?
First of all, I would try and find somebody who can refer or recommend a coach.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah,
Clearly, referrals important in most businesses,
yeah,
but with coaching, it is so personal.
yeah,
All right. If you know somebody,
mm,
um, and you know quite a few coaches now,
mm,
if you know an individual and you think they need coaching, you will naturally and instinctively think, well, I know that Fred would work really well with
yeah,
them, or Tom would work really well with them. Actually,
yeah,
Tim wouldn't
yeah,
because his style is different.
yeah,
So wherever possible, I try and find somebody who could refer and recommend a coach.
yeah,
Obviously, ideally someone who has been coached,
yeah,
so they can actually explain to you what it is, because there are a lot of misconceptions about coaching. A lot of people think, well, if you've got a coach, that means you must have a weakness, right?
mm,
So why have 95% of the FTSE CEOs got a coach?
mm,
Because
yeah.
having a coach is a good thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's not about weakness at all.
And because of what you just said, it's very lonely being
Yeah,
a CEO or an
yeah,
MD or running a business.
yeah,
So having a coach is a sounding board, right? It enables you to hold the mirror up, it enables you to understand what are the challenges facing you and make decisions on what you're going to do to overcome those challenges
mm,
in a safe environment. So look for a referral. Um, I would always encourage people to, if possible, see a couple of coaches
yeah,
for the same reason. It's that personal fit.
yeah. Just
Uh,
to meet them, you mean, to before you
Meet at
make a
least two
decision? Yeah,
to
yeah,
give you a choice.
yeah. I totally agree. Yeah,
Yeah, and there are coaching organisations. Um, I did look at quite a few. It is the other reason I'd say it's important to go for a referral or recommendation. It isn't regulated.
mm.
Okay, so you could go out
Anyone can be a coach.
and sell yourself as a coach tomorrow and
Mm,
put coach on your
mm,
business card,
mm,
and no one can challenge and question that.
mm,
As it happens, I know you're a good coach and you would be an excellent coach, and I think that's something you can do in the future if you
mm.
wish to. But I met quite a few coaches when I did Growth Accelerator that I certainly wouldn't recommend. So it isn't regulated. So
Mm.
because someone's got business coach on the business card, don't think that means they meet a certain standard.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's what I think I'd recommend. Go for a referral from a business or an individual that's had coaching, and ideally see at least a couple so you can make your own decision.
so I've got one thing to ask you. You mentioned a couple of books there. Is there a book recommendation that you would like to put forward for anyone running a business?
I think one of them is behind me there because I know you've applied it in your business.
Yeah,
I think if you're um, entrepreneurial SME, not necessarily family owned, but probably the majority would be family owned. Traction is a pretty good model to follow. I would never say run your business by a book.
no,
So do not think if you do traction, that is the silver bullet. Okay. But there are elements of traction I think are appropriate for many SME businesses if
yeah,
they're ambitious and they want to grow. And certainly you've applied elements of it in
yeah,
your business.
yeah. We don't live and breathe it inside out, but we've adopted quite a lot of it. But I wholeheartedly agree with pretty much everything that's in there, and I encourage. It's a book that I actually buy quite regularly for other people. So if I can see them struggling with something or
Yeah.
early on in the journey, I will buy them that book.
Yeah.
I'll write a little note in it and I'll give it to them and say, read this, it
Yeah.
will help you. So,
So I think traction's good to great. I found fascinating.
mm,
The sequel wasn't quite as good. I've mentioned extreme ownership.
yeah,
I think there were some nuggets in that book. I think, I'd encourage people to read a few
mm,
and take the bits that you think
yeah,
can work for you. If you're passionate about sport and business, I think a really interesting book is Clive Woodward's book, Winning,
mm,
how he took England from ranked eighth in the world to winning the Rugby World Cup. And he brought a number of different disciplines into the English RFU that enabled that to become the best team in the world and win the Rugby World Cup. So thinking critically under pressure. He talks about the incrementals, which Brailsford,
yeah,
so
marginal gains.
marginal gains.
Yeah, big believer in that.
So there's, and he bought actually coaches from different sports, the best coaches from different sports and different disciplines into the England rugby camp.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tim. I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having
It's
me.
been really interesting. And yeah, I look forward to you coaching me to be a coach.
Let's do it.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thanks, Tim.